During our investigation, we delve into the intriguing case of Agnes Klavina, a young woman whose life took an unexpected turn while she was on the Costa del Sol. A young lady by the name of Agnes Klavina is the subject of today's research, and we are eager to acquire additional information regarding her personality and background. This drama is taking place against the backdrop of a staggering worldwide problem, which is the terrible number of missing persons that are reported each year from all around the world. This tragedy is taking place every year. The narrative that is taking place against this backdrop is set against a catastrophe, which acts as the setting for the narrative. Agnes's story provides us with the opportunity to acquire a deeper comprehension of the complexities and challenges that are associated with instances involving missing persons. This is because Agnes's story is told from her point of view. When it comes to situations involving missing persons, it depicts a world in which the boundary between justice and uncertainty is generally blurred through circumstances. This is the case in the majority of cases. This is the situation all throughout the world. Every year, tens of millions of people vanish from the face of the globe, which is a reality that is distressing to consider. In light of this fact, those who work in law enforcement and investigations on a regular basis have challenges that they must overcome. As we continue our investigation into the circumstances behind Agnes Klavina's disappearance, we are brought back to the more critical issue that we are currently dealing with here at this very moment. This highlights how important it is to address and develop a knowledge of the issues that are contributing to the vast number of persons who have gone missing across the globe. This brings into foreground the relevance of addressing and understanding these concerns. Agnes Klavina was born on July 8, 1984, in the city of Riga, which is the capital of Latvia. Riga is also the name of the city. Additionally, the city is situated in the city of Riga. She was brought up in a conventional family environment and eventually attained the position of being the youngest of two girls. She was the youngest of the two. She was raised in a way that was typical of the family arrangement that she was raised in. Agnes and Greta, Agnes's older sister, shared a beautiful bond, and Agnes's parents were dedicated to ensuring that both of their daughters received a strong education as well as the emotional and financial support they required to achieve their goals. Greta was Agnes's older sister. The older sister of Agnes was known as Greta. It was known that Agnes's older sister was referred to as Greta. Over the course of her life, Agnes blossomed into a young woman who was beloved, joyful, and filled with vitality. During her time in high school, she was able to accomplish a lot, including excelling in her studies, competing in athletics, and garnering notice for her stunning beauty. When Agnes was 20 years old, she made a decision that would forever change the path that her life would take from that point forward. She moved from her home nation of Latvia to London, which is located in the United Kingdom. It was after she had finished her studies that she made this decision, and it would have a significant impact on the remainder of her life. It was via her travels in London that she became acquainted with Michael Mills, a man who was regarded as being more experienced and skilled than she was. It would turn out that Michael Mills would end up being an important figure in her life. As a consequence of the choices she makes in the future, her life will undergo significant transformations. Agnes made the decision to look for work in the service industry, and she also decided to enroll in language classes and undergo training in order to become a marketing manager for tourism. She was able to accomplish this while concurrently exploring new educational opportunities. She was most excited about the tourism and entertainment industries, and this passion served as her primary source of inspiration. She was also very passionate about the entertainment industry. In order to extend her horizons and investigate the possibility of new opportunities, she agreed to work as an administrator at a well-known nightclub in Marbella, Spain, for a period of 3 months. This was done in order to discover new opportunities. So that she may gain a more well-rounded perspective, she did this. It was the decision that she made that served as the impetus for the beginning of a significant phase in her life, which in turn led to a series of unexpected turns and twists that would ultimately end up determining her fate. In the course of her travels, Agnes Klavina arrived in Marbella, Spain, where she accepted a temporary position as an administrator in one of the nightclubs that was thought to be the most popular and largest in the region. Despite the fact that they were separated by a significant distance, her connection with Michael Mills remained strong throughout their shared experience. Even as they worked through the challenges that come with being in a committed relationship that is long distance, this was the situation that they found themselves in. According to Agnes, the allure of Marbella's vibrant nightlife and bright professional prospects had the potential to present her with the opportunity to begin a new era of her life while she was there. She went on to say that she was able to make the most of this opportunity. On the evening of September 6, 2014, Agnes and her companions went to a well-known nightclub in Costa del Sol as part of their scheduled night out. The nightclub was located in the Costa del Sol. The Costa del Sol was the locality of the nightclub in question. It was one of the things that her friends remembered most about her because she was wearing a lovely short dress and holding a small white clutch. This was one of the things that they remembered most about her. One of the things that caught their attention was this particular aspect. Throughout the course of the evening, Agnes created the impression that she was having a good time by publishing pictures on the internet, connecting with her friends, and sharing experiences with them both individually and collectively. Nevertheless, the evening took a dismal turn when, in the early morning hours, she declared that she intended to remain for a little longer and then take a cab back to her place. This announcement marked the beginning of the evening's downward spiral. These events took place in the wee hours of the morning. A change in disposition occurred throughout the evening as a consequence of this news, which was the catalyst for the metamorphosis. Everyone saw Agnes alive for the very last time, and that was the very last time anyone saw her alive. Agnes was seen alive for the very last time. The fact that Agnes did not show up for work the following day made it quite evident that her disappearance was a cause for significant concern. It became clear that this was the case when Agnes failed to show up for work. Numerous attempts were made to get in touch with her by a large number of her friends and co-workers who were concerned about her health when they made these efforts. However, in spite of their extremely best attempts, they were ultimately unsuccessful because her phone was turned off. Her parents and fiancé had a tough time convincing the Spanish authorities to take prompt action because of the delay in filing the formal complaint of her kidnapping. This delay caused the authorities to wait longer than they should have. She disappeared, and the Spanish authorities were alerted of the problem when she disappeared. That being said, this did take place in spite of the fact that there was a great amount of fear at the time. There was a delay of 5 days before the official report of the missing person was submitted, which was a delay that would eventually have an effect on the investigation that was carried out after it has been reported. For the purpose of doing the preliminary inquiry, the authorities searched the apartment that Agnes rented. Yet, they did not locate any indication of a struggle or a forced entrance while they were doing their investigation. The inquiry that was being carried out at the time was faced with a hurdle as a result of this circumstances. Her whole collection of personal belongings, which included jewelry, bank documents, and other items, was in pristine condition and had not been damaged in any way. Her collection contained everything from jewelry to bank paperwork. Agnes's family and loved ones were left in a state of fear and confusion as a result of the lack of clues and the tardy response from law enforcement personnel. The reason for this was because they were unable to locate any information that they were looking for. The circumstance surrounding Agnes's disappearance, which was already somewhat enigmatic, became even more intriguing as a result of this. A mystery surrounded Agnes's disappearance, and these reasons contributed to the prevalence of that mystery. The circumstances surrounding Agnes's disappearance were cloaked in mystery. The discovery that the detectives were able to make during the course of the investigation was one of the most significant discoveries that they were able to make when they analyzed the surveillance footage from the nightclub. According to the television movie, Agnes was sighted leaving with 3 males at roughly 6 o'clock in the morning. One of the events that took place was this one. From what can be seen in the footage, it seemed as though a man named Wesley Capper, who was accompanied by Craig Porter and Sean Usman, was dragging her away against her will. At first glance, it seemed as though she was being taken away for no apparent reason. This interpretation was generated on the basis of the recordings that were made. This piece of information, which was a vital piece of evidence that was discovered throughout the course of the inquiry into Agnes's disappearance, was uncovered as a result of the investigation that was conducted into her disappearance. Craig Porter, who is a friend of Wesley Capper, and Sean Usman, who worked as a doorman at the nightclub, were the individuals who were identified and brought in for interrogation. Wesley Capper, who is the son of a wealthy British businessman, was also one of the individuals who was taken in for questioning. Additionally, Wesley Capper counts Craig Porter as a buddy of his. Wesley Capper is his name, and he is the son of a successful businessman who hails from the United Kingdom. He goes by the moniker of Wesley Captain. As a result of the claims that they made statements that were diametrically opposed to one another, which led to a complex web of misconceptions as a consequence of the claims that they made. Despite the fact that Usman claimed that Agnes was under the influence of alcohol, Capper contended that she had left of her own will, while Porter said that he was unable to check the facts because he seemed to be intoxicated. Both allegations were made in response to Usman's assertion that Agnes had left. In spite of the fact that the surveillance film was riveting, the case was rendered that much more challenging by the absence of any solid evidence. This was in spite of the fact that the recording showed a riveting performance. The suspects, who maintained their innocence throughout the length of the investigation, indicated that Agnes entered the vehicle voluntarily. They also stated that they were not guilty of the crime. Agnes voluntarily got into the van without her consent. After she was dropped off at the place, the defense asserted that she could have been kidnapped and murdered by unknown individuals. This could have occurred after she was dropped off at the spot. The defense asserted that this was the situation all along, which was one of the assertions that they made. Throughout the course of the research project, there were a few challenges that were experienced. One of the challenges that was experienced throughout this process was the removal of vital evidence, such as a long blonde hair that was found in the trunk of the automobile. This was one of the aspects that made this process tough. The efforts that were made to discover the truth were hampered by this hurdle, which ultimately led to their failure. Approximately 1.5 years after Agnes was reported missing, legal proceedings were launched against the individuals who were suspected of being responsible for her disappearance. These individuals were accused of being responsible for Agnes's disappearance. Wesley Capper was given a sentence of 2 years for taking advantage of Agnes's intoxicated state, and Craig Porter was given a period of 6 months for playing a complicit role in the crime. Both people were sentenced to their respective sentences. The court has decided to impose both of these penalties on the defendant. Both of these punishments are going to be handed down to the offender, as the court has chosen to do. The fines that had been handed down to both of them were suspended, and in addition to that, they were obliged to pay a little donation of £10,000 to Agnes's family as a kind of tiny recompense. This was in addition to the suspension of the fines that had been suspended. Any and all individuals who were close to Agnes were taken aback by the decisions that were handed down by the court. As a consequence of this, an appeal was submitted, which came to light other legal challenges as well as the future criminal activities in which the suspects were involved. During the middle of June 2023, the case of Agnes Klavina took a turn that was not only unexpected but also astonishing. This unexpected turn of events turned out to be pretty upsetting, and it was a twist that surprised everyone quite a little. While carrying out his routine cleaning tasks in La Quita, which is situated in the Costa del Sol region, a gardener came across an object that was extremely strange. This discovery was made by the gardener. There is a consensus among golf enthusiasts that La Quita is not only one of the most well-known golf clubs in the area, but it is also one of the most commonly played. After doing a more thorough investigation, it was found that the item in question was an old piece of baggage that had sustained significant damage. This particular bag had sustained a tremendous amount of damage after being dropped. In the end, the investigation into Agnes's disappearance was reorganized as a result of this revelation, which set in motion a series of events that would eventually lead to the decision. As a consequence of these occurrences, the restructuring of the investigation will eventually take place. Following the receipt of a timely notification, the authorities in charge of law enforcement conducted an assessment of the luggage and made a sad discovery. Human remains, also known as human remains. Due to the fact that this discovery was a matter for concern, the authorities were concerned about it. As a result of the findings of additional research, which led to the conclusion that was presented earlier, the bones were discovered to be those of a young lady who had been between the ages of 25 and 35 at the time of her death. The bones were subjected to extra investigation, which led to the discovery of this result. When the bag was ultimately located, it had been submerged in water for more than 10 years, during which time it had been discovered before it was finally located. The luggage was found almost 10 years after it had been reported missing. Having been suggested that these remains could be those of Agnes Klavina, the theory that these remains could be those of Agnes Klavina was created as a result of these proposals. At this very moment, a comprehensive DNA analysis is being carried out in order to establish beyond a shadow of a doubt the identification of the remains that have been identified as having been retrieved. This action is being taken in order to guarantee that the remains have been retrieved. If it turns out that the charges are true, it would provide Agnes's family, who have spent a significant portion of their life coping with ambiguity, the much-needed feeling of closure that they have been yearning for. This would be a significant relief for them. It is also feasible that the potential of a match might pave the way for the case to be reopened, which would shed light on the circumstances behind Agnes's disappearance and make those involved accountable for their actions. This would be a positive development. Having this happen would be a good turn of events. Having this occur would be a fortunate turn of circumstances to take place. An exhaustive investigation of the material is currently being carried out by forensic specialists in order to ascertain the genuine identity of the remains that were found to be included within the bag. At this very moment, the inquiry has finally arrived at a crucial stage, and the forensic specialists are currently carrying out this evaluation. A re-examination of the sequence of events that led to Agnes's disappearance and the pursuit of justice for her and her mourning loved ones are two possibilities that have been brought to light by the most recent developments. Both of these possibilities have been brought to light by the most recent developments. These two possibilities are relevant to the inquiry into Agnes's disappearance, which is now underway. In light of the most recent events, both of these possibilities have been brought to light as potential courses of action. The most recent incidents have cast light on these two alternatives, which have been brought to light as a result of the events that have taken place. These alternatives have shown themselves to be viable options. The life of a young woman who was full of potential took a disastrous turn on a night out on the Costa del Sol, and the case of Agnes Klavina is an enthralling account of what transpired in her life. Her life was full of possibility. Her life went from being tragic to being full of possibilities in a short amount of time. As a result of the story's incorporation of a number of unanticipated twists and ambiguities, her family and the general public have stayed on edge throughout the course of the narrative. These unexpected turns and uncertainties have been present throughout the entirety of the investigation, beginning with the initial disappearance and continuing through the identification of suspects and the subsequent legal measures which have been taken. This includes the vanishing that occurred initially. A ray of hope for answers has been supplied as a result of the unexpected turn that was acquired with the discovery of human remains, which has given the investigation a new lease on life. This has provided a new lease on life for the investigation. Because of this, there is a tremendous amount of hope that the probe will be successful. Because of this recent turn of events, the investigation has been granted a new beginning thanks to the new beginning. DNA is presently being investigated, and it is this investigation that holds the key to ascertaining the truth and maybe reopening the case. The investigation is currently being carried out. Not only does the chance of surviving suspects being tried for their crimes present an opportunity for justice to be served, but it also imparts an additional element of complexity to the narrative that is swiftly approaching its conclusion. In light of the fact that the narrative of Agnes Klavina is still unfolding, it is something that we strongly advise you to do whenever it is feasible to do so. Keeping an eye out for fresh updates when they become available is something that you should do with regard to this matter. The channel will continue to be committed to giving you with stories that are not only intriguing but also thought-provoking and that delve into the complexities of mysteries that occur in real life. I hope you like these stories. The continuation of this commitment is planned for the future. Continuing to be actively involved in the fight for truth and justice is something that you will be able to do if you subscribe to receive other accounts that are interesting. Thank you for watching. I recommend our other crime videos.